Hey, David, I'm good to go.
David, you're on mute.
Thank you very much. So welcome everyone. Today's Apex Office Hours is on Application Express on Autonomous. So before I get started, I just want to show off some links. We have a link here to easily get at our Apex on Autonomous. There's also a new blog post that was released this morning. Thanks very much to Joel Corman for doing that. And then there's also a link here to the hands-on labs. So that's all the slides I'm going to be doing today. What I'm going to do is just go over to my browser, and I've just gone to apex.oracle.com, and if you go down to platform, you can go to autonomous database, and from here you'll see we have a link here for the free Oracle Cloud trial and also a getting started guide. I'm just going to click on this getting started for free. And from here, you'll see that there's a link to go and get yourself a free account where you can actually go and start playing with Autonomous. So I've already got access to Autonomous. So here I am in my Oracle Cloud Infrastructure console, and I'm just going to log in. And first of all, what I want to do is just create a database. So I'm going to create a database here, and I'll give it a name. So I'm going to call it AOH for Apex Office Hours. I want transaction processing. I want serverless, not dedicated. I'm just going to use 1 and 1, and I need to put in my password. And that's it. Now you can choose whether you've got your own license or license included. And that's going to be provisioning. So while that's going through, which will only take a minute or two, I just want to quickly show you, if you go to our Get Started for free here, you'll also see there's a section here on, you can also get at the free trial here for Autonomous. Soon we're going to have a video up here on how to get at that as well. But I also wanted to take you into the Learn here and show you the tutorials. Under tutorials here, you'll see that we now have tutorials for running on Autonomous and for running on apex.oracle.com. There's currently 4 labs available. So there's one here. The first one is a very simple one on creating a spreadsheet. Second one builds on existing tables. So we have you load up some tables and then build an application on top of it. The third one uses Quick SQL to actually build out some tables and then build an application on top of it. And the fourth one is on, you'll actually create 2 different workspaces and REST enable some database objects in one, and then utilize that in your second workspace to show how you can build REST enabled applications. And we have got another one that's going to be released very shortly, which is utilizing a REST API to load up a table and then build an application on that, but it's not out there just yet. So let's go and see how our provisioning's going. It's still going. Unfortunately, it should be finished shortly, I hope. It doesn't take that long. If I just go back to the slides here for a second. So if you go to this apex.oracle.com/HOLS, then it will take you to that tutorials page. And if you go to /autonomous, it will take you to the Autonomous page with lots of great information for you to read about Autonomous. While we're waiting, in fact, I'm just going to go to our blogs. And I'm not seeing the one I was hoping to see. Here we go. How to move your Apex applications to autonomous database. So as I said, this was just put out this morning, and it looks very complex, but I'll show you that it's not really as hard as it looks, because of the fact that's one of the key things I'm going to be going through today. So now my service is up, and I need to go into the service console. And from here, the first thing I want to do is I actually want to go in and I want to download my client credentials. And the reason I need to do this is as part of moving my export into my cloud service, I need to have my wallet. So I just need to put in my password again. And I can download that. Okay. So let me just quickly go over now to my file browser. And hasn't quite downloaded yet, but that's okay. I'll come back to that in a second. I think I did that a bit too quickly. I killed it off. So let me go through once again. This time I'll let it go through without killing it. Come on now. So while we're waiting for that to go through, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over and show you from development, we have this download Oracle Instant Client. And from here, you can download, I'm on a Mac, so I'm going to go to the Mac OS. And if you download the basic package here, also download the SQL Plus package and the tools package, and you'll see that that gives you Data Pump and SQL Plus that you can then use from your instant client and be able to utilize that to be able to communicate back with the cloud service. So I don't know why this isn't down yet. Okay. So let me just extract these. In fact, sorry, let me go back again. Okay. Basically, what I'm trying to do is actually go and get the correct tier nest names and the SSO wallet and what have you that I need. And this has given me some grief that I haven't seen before. So let me just try one more time to go back in. Go back into my service console. That should be fine. Okay. This is going to change my demo script for today, but that's okay. So I did this yesterday, and here's the wallet that I pulled out yesterday. I actually moved all the details up. The one thing that I did need to do is I needed to change the SQLnet Aura. So by default, it actually has a question mark here, and I actually put in my full path to get this to work. So once I've got that working, then I can actually go across to my terminal window, and I'm actually just going to get out of here. Okay. Why is it doing this to me? Let me just open up a new one. So I'm just going to go to downloads, and then I'm going to go to my instant client. Oh, it's 18.1. That's why I went wrong. Okay, so I'm in my directory now. I'm just going to export my Oracle home. Okay. And then I'm just going to go into SQL Plus. And if I actually have a look in the TNS names file, you will see that I have various entries in here. And I want to go to, in fact, just looking at this one, this isn't the TNS names that I want. So I'll actually just go and copy them back over. Oh, here we go. I've finally got these ones in. Great. So let me go back to the original demo that I was hoping to do. I'm just going to drop all these into my network admin directory. So this is under instant client here. If I have a look, I just drop this under my network admin directory. Now I'm going to go and quickly tweak this directory here. Let's grab that and put that in. Okay, so that's all good now. So now if I have a look at my TNS names Aura file, you'll see that I've got AOH high, low, medium, etc. So I want AOH high. And so now I can go back to my terminal, and I want to go into AOH high. Okay. Oops. Would help if I put a @ there instead of a slash. And the one thing it's doing is it's actually, I've got to make sure that I'm and I misspelt my username. Okay, so now I'm into SQL Plus, and what I need to do is I actually need to set up credentials. And so I'm just going to run this here where I'm going to set up my username. I actually went into the back in the console here. If you go back to from here, sorry, if you go under your user settings, and then you go to authorization tokens, you can set up a token, and that's where I got that passcode that I'm utilizing. So now I've successfully set up my credentials. And so now what I'm going to do is actually go and import my export that I took from, is actually from an Exadata Express. And I'm just going to grab this one here. Okay, here's my import statement. And so all I'm doing is I'm logging into my admin account, AOH High, giving it this credential that I just created, telling it where to put it. I'm remapping my table spaces because of the fact that from the export I need to remap those. And then I've actually already uploaded my dump file into the object storage. And to do that is really quite simple. All you do is go back in here, go to object storage. If need be, you create a bucket. I've already got one. And then you just upload your objects. So you can see I've got a few different dump files in here that I've already uploaded. Okay, so going back to my terminal, let me just fire this off. Now this is going to take a couple of minutes. So while that's going through, what I'm going to do is go back to Autonomous here, and I'm going to go into development, and I'm going to create a workspace for developing Apex applications. So I've just clicked on Apex. And I need to give it my password again. So the first time in, it will take you into this administration services, create a workspace. I'm going to create one called AOH. Now I need to give it a password. And I'll leave the workspace name alone. And I'll go ahead and create this workspace. So now I'm in instance admin, and I can go and create additional workspaces, monitor activity, etc. You'll notice that you don't have all the rights of instance administrator that you normally have because of the fact it's on a fully managed service. Then we don't provide all of the capabilities you do have on premise. And I'm just going to log into my service here now. So AOH. And to learn all about the restrictions, you can just click on this new to Apex link, which I'll go to in a minute. But for now, I'll just log in. And so now I'm in Application Express, the same as if I'm on premise. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go and create a couple of users. So the first user I'm going to create is a developer. So I'm just going to call him developer. Okay, he's got an email address. And then I'll put in a password for him. And I'll create this user and create one more. Passwords do not match. Of course they don't. Let me try that one more time. See if I did better this time. There we go. And I'm going to create another one called end user. Okay, so he's an end user. Again, put in passwords for him. And I don't need to change his password on first login, and I'll create this user. Okay, so I've created a couple of users, and what I'm going to do now is I just want to grab the URL, and I'm going to go across to a different browser. So all I need to do for developers is send them the URL for the new service. If I copied that correctly, it would have been helpful. Okay. There we go, that's much better. And so I log into AOH, developer, and then enter in his password. And so now I'm in Apex as a developer. And what I'm going to do is just go into my sample data sets here, create an application. And the quickest way to do that is to use just a sample data set. Oh, okay, I hit that too quickly. Let me go through it one more time. Okay, so now I can create my application. Okay, so now let me go ahead and run my application. And I'm in my application here, so I'm just going to go to administration, and I'm simply going to add my end user. And I'll make him a contributor. And now I'm going to simply sign out. And so again, I can just send the URL of this application to my end user, together with their credentials. And now they can log into the application, and you'll notice I don't have administration anymore because of the fact I'm an end user. So now let me go back and see where we're at with our provisioning, or with our import, I should say. And so you'll see that the import is finished. It's imported a few different schemas in here. And now it's time for me to go back in to SQL Plus. And what I want to do is I actually want to update one of the users in there so that I know what his password is. And I've, again, haven't updated my password, so that's okay. I'll just put it in here. Oh, okay, hang on one second. Let me just get up here and try retyping this properly. That's better. So now what I want to do is I need to alter my particular user. So Oops. Okay. And now I'm going to go back into Apex, and I'm actually going to go back into administration. So let me sign out of here. And while I'm here, I'm actually just going to click on Doc. From here, you can see all the information about Apex on Autonomous. It shows you instructions on how to log in. Also talks about things like the restrictions and sending email and what have you. I'm just going to close that now. For now, I want to go into Administration Services. So I'll just log in here. And I'm going to go into Manage Workspaces and then create a workspace. So the workspace I need to create is this name here. You'll notice I don't need to add a password because of the fact it's an existing user. The very important thing I need to do though is I need to specify the workspace ID, which I have from the export. So I'm going to put that in here and then create this workspace. So now that I've done that, what I need to do is actually log into that workspace. So in fact, I'm just going to click here and sign in. Okay. So I give it a decent email address. Okay, so if we go and have a look in SQL Workshop and the object browser, you'll notice that we have these Apex archive tables. And these are actually, as part of the blog post, if you go through it, what we're actually doing is we're using the Apex archive utility to load up all the applications before we do the export. So that when we come across here and we have a look at the data, you'll see that there's actually an archive already sitting in here. However, there's also these EBA tables. And what we need to do is actually remove all of these EBA tables so that we can reinstall the packaged application. So to do that, I'm just going to go to SQL Scripts and I'm going to create a new script and I'm going to call it drop app archive. That'll do. And then again, in that blog post, we have a listing there. Let's drop those in. We'll run this. One with the errors. Okay, that's fine. And that table doesn't exist. Okay, so now if I go back, I'm just going to double check in my object browser. I have none of the EBA app archive tables. So now I can go into Application Gallery, Application Archive, install the application. Now that I have the application installed, I can actually run it. And I need to log in. And you'll see that I have one archive. And if I click on this, I can then actually restore it. I can actually restore additional content if necessary, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back across here and go into App Builder and then go to Workspace Utilities. Now I know I'm running through this very quickly, but it is all documented in that blog post. I then go to export and export repository. And here's an application that was in the archive here. And I can now install this application locally into my workspace. Now, the key thing is I will have to install each application one at a time. So if you've got multiple applications in there, you'll have to go through and install them just by clicking on install, going back through, install, install, install. Now, given this one is the sample database application, it actually has supporting objects, but I actually imported all of the tables, so I don't need to upgrade my supporting objects. I can just go through, and now I can actually try and run the application. And you'll see I've got an error. And the reason for that is the fact that if I have a look at my shared components and my authentication schemes, then it's currently using Oracle Cloud Identity Management because of the fact it came from Exadata Express. And so what I'm going to do is just change the authentication on this and make it Application Express accounts. And now if I actually try and run this application, it's going to ask for my username, password. And now you'll see that I have the sample database application up and running, and it's in this new workspace that I've just created by moving the whole schema across and then restoring the application. So, you can see that in, 25 minutes, I was able to import and export. The only step that I didn't perform was the export, but I was able to create a brand new cloud service. I was able to import the export file that I had from a on-premise or another cloud service and be able to get it up and running very quickly and easily. So, the other things that you should be aware of is that when you're creating users, if I just go back, I'm in this workspace, let me go back to my other one. So if I go back into AOH, then when you're creating users, rather than the developer, for example, is a database user, AOH is a database user, but the end users are not database users. So just be aware of that. The other thing is when you're doing authentication, then you need to utilize Identity Cloud Service, and there is some posts on that, and we'll be putting out a blog specifically for how to do that on Apex in the near future. So, I thought my demonstrations would actually take longer than they did. I was actually able to get through them very quickly. The key thing is just search for Apex Oracle, Oracle Apex blogs, and read through this. As I said, the only steps I didn't cover today was actually going to my on-premise database, installing the archive applications, and then making sure I push all my applications across before I do the export, I should say. And then once you've got that export, you just go into your OCI console, upload that file, and then you can use it in the import. It's very important when you're creating the auth token, and also when you're doing the update. In fact, let me just go back in here. To get the URL, it's very simple. You just go to View Object Details, and that's the exact URL that I had in my import script. So there's some information you need to capture as you're going through these steps you use when you're doing the import, and when you're creating the when you're running the SQL to create the def cred name. So when you're running that SQL, you need the auth token that you create when you run through that. So I'm just basically, if you want to ask any questions, I know I've run through this very quickly, but that's how easy Autonomous is. once you're up and running, then as for a developer, then this is very much the same as any other Apex environment. As I said, just make sure you go through the documentation that I brought up earlier. And again, to get to that, if I just go here and return to the sign-in page, just click on the New to Apex link, and it has details on all the restrictions and everything else that are part of the autonomous service. So somebody's just asking about the limitations, so I was very apt that I happened to go here. I already talked about one of them being the fact that you're using database credentials for the Workspace administrators and for your developers. You can't do self-service Workspace requests. There's no purging capabilities, those sorts of things. Again, because of the fact it's a fully managed service, then we've removed those from instance administration. There's also, you can't put in your own wallet. We've actually provided a wallet which provides the majority of websites you'll need to go to. We haven't run into any issues with that, and we've been running that same wallet in Exadata Express now for several years. There is a daily limit on the outbound web service calls and email messages, and you have to use HTTPS. Very importantly here, you can't use LDAP or HTTP header variable authentication or single sign-on. Instead, you need to use IDCS. The printing capabilities are disabled, and you'll have to configure a third-party print server for that. And as I said before, there's details here on how to go about configuring your mail. So if you want to have any sort of subscriptions or things like that, then you need to go through the steps listed here. There's a question here about vanity URLs. Again, that's a restriction at this point in time. It's something that we've got on our roadmap, and it's something we'd like to introduce when we can. So we are actively working on that one. The other key thing here is it's only available in English. Again, that's something we're looking into. We can't give you any dates on that at this point in time. So Vlad's very helpfully answering questions in the chat here as far as the limits and what have you. It's actually set to 50,000 is the limit per day for the for the outbound web service calls and email messages. So with that, if there's no more questions coming in, then I'd like to thank you very much for joining us. We hope to have another Apex Office Hours in the near future. It will be on Apex 19.2 new features. We're just finalizing some things before we can actually have that office hours and make sure we bring you all the latest and greatest content for that. So stay tuned and make sure that you actually subscribe to our Apex Office Hours so that you get notifications of when the next one is set up. And with that, I thank you very much for joining us today, and have fun with Autonomous. Don't forget to go into here, and if you go to apex.oracle.com/autonomous, take you here and sign up for your free trial to get started today. Thank you very much.